Hey guys, I hope you watched our first video. That was on basic make safety, maintenance, taking the boomstick apart, cleaning everything, and putting it back together again. So what we'll be doing tonight is going through a quick tutorial just on how to install coils properly and easily. Basic things that you'll need is a clean RDA, a mic, or if you want to run it on a mic, doesn't matter, you can run it on variable wattage as well. For these specific coils, we will be running it on a mic. You will need a variable wattage device or an ohm reader, ceramic tweezers, a coil jig or screwdriver of the certain ID or inner diameter of the coil that you will be installing, pair of flush cuts, and then screwdrivers to tighten the screws, grubs, whatever it is that is on your RDA. Then lastly, you will be needing cotton to wick the coils with, and then any juice that you would like to wet the wicks, and then vape. We will be using Knoll's Dunked Cookie for this tutorial today. Okay, so taking the coils, you will need to make sure that the leads are even length. This is because if one lead is longer on the one coil than it is on the other one, the ohmages of the two coils will vary, and then they will fire at different rates. So to make sure that the coils are firing equally, you will need to make sure that the leads going into the RDA will be the same length. Talking about the RDA, you get different styles. This specifically is a postless type of RDA. You get clamp posts like on the Goon, or a 2-post design with clamps on the Apocalypse, 3-post design, 4-post design, whatever the case may be. The basic concepts of installing a coil stays the same on all the RDAs. It's just the way that the build deck is orientated. So we will be building on the Bandy Vape Phobia. So that is a postless style build deck. So to make sure that the leads are the same length, you take your trusty coil jig or screwdriver with the same ID, slide it over, and then cut the leads to the right length. This does take some practicing, and if you don't get it right the first time, you can always take the coil out and just cut them again so they're the same length. So after you've cut these relatively the same length, place the next coil on top, and then make sure that the leads are cut to the same length. To stop them from flying everywhere like that one just did, you can hold onto the coil or just press onto the leg, and that will stop it from flying everywhere. Okay, so looking on where you should place the different leads of the coils, you have your positive and your negative post on all RDAs. The position of the positive and negative will usually vary. Most of the time you will find your positive post in the middle and your negative post on the sides. Whereas on this deck, you will see that the plastic insulator runs around this side, so then you know it's the positive side. That's the one making contact with the battery, and then your negative side that's milled onto the deck. So installing them, you have to make sure that the one lead goes into the positive and the one onto the negative. Just slide them in there. If it does struggle a little bit, just gently push them into place. Then onto the other side. Same thing, one positive, one negative. Before you tighten the screws down, just make sure that the coils are relatively level. So the one isn't standing up over there, the other one's down here. However the case may be, just make sure that they're relatively the same height. So just double check. Holding them in place with your fingers gently. Take the screwdriver that you'll need, either Phillips head or a flathead, and just tighten the grubs down tightly, but not too tight. So just a little bit tighter than finger tight. Same on the other side. Just tighten it down and down again. Take your coil jig again to make sure that they're held tightly into the posts. Put the coil jig through and gently pull away from the deck. Same on that side. On this side again. Pulling it slightly away, and then you see that the coils are held tightly into the deck. Next step is to align them so that they're the position on the deck that you want them to be and parallel to each other. You don't want the one sitting skew and the other one sitting level. So you want them to look the same on both sides, and relatively level. So on the phobia, I personally like to place them a little bit closer to the middle, closer to each other, not touching, and then a little bit higher up. So then you can look and you will see they're relatively level. Next, you see the placement according to the middle of the deck. So to get that done, if they're not sitting nicely, you take the screwdriver or the coil jig, you can take this thingy off, slide it back in, and just push the coils gently into the position that you want them to be. Then just double check again that they are where you want to be. With your coil placement, everything is leveled, similar mirror image on one side, on the other side. You're happy everything's looking. Then you firstly go to your variable wattage device or your ohm reader. Reason for that being, don't put it on a mech just yet. The moment you install coils without pre-firing them, their ohmages will always read lower than what they're supposed to be. So running them on a mech, it will go dangerously low ohmages on a mech battery. Putting them on a too powerful device that you can't regulate that much, you will most likely on nichrome coils burn off one of the legs. So you want to keep the wattages or the power going through to the coils nice and low so that you can control the dry firing at first. So what you can do is, after the mod has been turned on, depending on the ohmage of the coils, the weight of the coils, etc., you can take them lower to roughly, the safe zone would be between 65 and 70. You can go even lower than that, but that's something completely different. That's where when you want to get color shots of your coils, etc., but we will cover that in a different video. For now, safe wattages or power would be relatively between 65 and 70 depending on your coils. Pulsing the coils at low wattages allows you to see where the different hotspots and everything will be that you need to work out. So as you press the firing button, you will see that there is going to be different areas that's glowing a lot more than other ones. So what you want is a nice even glow from the inside out. Usually what we do firstly to get rid of that is you gently take the last coil of the coils, the wrap if you want to call it as such, and gently pull it away from the wrist, spacing the coil slightly. If it's not making contact, you're less likely to get a hot spot on said coil. So do it on the one side and then on the other side. So you'll see the coil spaces. Grab it on the other side, pull, and then pull again. So then you will see when you fire, you're more likely to get the same hot spots, but then as you start pinching, you will see the hot spots disappearing over time. As you can see on this side, there is a very, okay, now the hot spot disappeared. That can also happen from slight pulsing. If it's a very small hot spot, pulsing the coil will get rid of it. So as you fire it again, you can see over there, there's a hot spot as it's not glowing evenly. So to get that out, you just pull that wrap again, pulse, and pinch. Okay, so next, what we're gonna be doing, after you let the coils cool down first, so that it's not glowing, not red anywhere, you let them cool down all the way to check that it's glowing from the middle out. Then you just fire it again, and then you check, firing from the inside, out. Just to show you guys a close-up of the glowing shot to make sure that it's glowing from the middle out. Let's see if we can get a nice uppy closey. Okay, let's glow it again. Nicely from the middle out. So then you put the variable wattage down, let the coils cool down completely. What you could do next is on your variable wattage device or on your ohm reader, just double check the ohmage that it's relatively close to what you calculated, or that is usually written on the container that you will buy your coils in. A safe zone would be plus minus 0.01 ohms. So if it is out of what you calculated or is on the labeling by 0.01, you're still in a safe zone. If you're out by more than 0.03, just double check that everything is nice and tight, your contacts are clean, your pin on the bottom, the contact pin is all the way tight and clean and everything. If all of that is still fine, then there might be something wrong with the coil itself. A lead might have snapped on the dry firing or whatever the case may be. So just make sure that you're not out by more than 0.02 on either what you calculated or what is on the packaging ohmage wise. Okay, so next we'll be going into the wicking of the coil. The wicking can be a very important part of any build to make sure that it's vaping the way that it should. Wicking a coil too loosely will sort of cause the coil to overheat and then burn through the wick, which will give you a very dry, heaty type of taste. Overly tight wicking on a coil will also cause it to be unable to wick the juice to where it needs to be. You will burn the cotton and get a horrible taste. So you have to be finger tight on the wicking. So it's sort of a thing you will learn over time. Based vapor production, based flavor, everything sort of depends on your wicking. So the coils do their part, but you can make the most amazing coils vape horribly by wicking it wrong. So on this video, we will be using the Streaky Cotton by Prime Wick from Vape Warehouse, local cotton that is used in every packaging for boom coils, as we love this cotton. So as you open up your package, you will see there are different strands, if you wish. So now you have to break off the right amount for your coils. The specific coils we're talking about is a 2.5 ID type of coil. So you're trying to break off enough cotton that when you roll it in between your fingers to make it nice and round, that it sort of feels the same as the 2.5 ID on your coil jig or your screwdriver. So after you roll it to get it nice and tight, all the loose pieces nice and compacted, not overly compacted, so don't press it too hard, just roll it gently between your fingers to get it nice and round. Other technique is to hold it flat on your hand and roll it. I personally prefer to just roll it between my fingers. Key point, don't pull on the cotton, as your organic cottons will then break apart and then you can't use that piece. So try and keep your fingers close to each other, just roll, no pulling, no real pushing or anything, nice gentle movements. So as I can feel already, this is too much cotton for the coils that we will be installing. So then after you've rolled it, you can just tear a little piece apart and then roll it again. This is something you will learn over time as you wick more and more and more as to what will be the right amount. So now going to insert them through the coil. Take your fingers and roll very tightly, very hard on the one end to make a nice pointy bit that will go through your coil. Gently slide it through and pull. Key point on this is to get the cotton nice and finger tight, not overly tight. You should still be able to pull it without moving the coil itself, but it shouldn't move freely through the coil. So that's something you will learn over time as well. It just takes practice, practice, practice. So pulling it through, I can feel it's nice and tight, but not overly tight. Pulling it, okay, so we're getting to that really tight bit. To make sure that it's sitting nice and snug, just pull on this side, pull back, back, and back again. So at this point, you can either use scissors to cut it to the right length, or over time you will learn, just gently pull, hold the one side, and pull the cotton loose, and then you're left with a nice fluffy bit on the one side. Hold this side again, pull it loose, flip it around. So you're still left with that tightly pressed pointy bit that you left at the first place. Go around, push this wick away, insert it, pull it through, and pull all the way through again until you find a nice spot where it's sitting nice and tight but not overly tight. Found that spot, pull, 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 hold onto the side, pull the excess cotton away. On this side the same, hold on to this again, and pull. If you're not left with the nice fluffy bits, if you use the scissor or for whatever the case may be, you can use your long nose tweezers and then use the pointy bit to just fluff out the cotton and get rid of the nice compacted bits that you don't really want, that won't be able to wick the juice as nicely as you want it to. Get that cotton nice and loose. It'll be able to suck up all the juice. And just put that to one side. Okay, this is a tricky bit that is going to be different on every RDA. Rebuildable dripper atomizers. That you will have to look and learn as the drippers differ. On the Phobia, the placement of the wick will be just right down into the well. On the post RDAs, it's usually around the sides, making sure that the coil sits in line with the airflow, but the wick does not block the airflow. The moment you choke the coils, they will overheat, not nice flavor production, everything, so you're still looking to have enough airflow. So your wicking placement should be into the well, but not blocking your airflow. So it's different on every RDA, and you'll sort of have to learn whichever RDA that you have. So now gently pushing, you can use the tweezers again, you can use your screwdriver, the ceramic pliers, tweezers, sorry, whichever you want to use. Just gently fold them into the juice well. Make sure that all the pieces are in there. Gently push them in. Don't overly force, because then you're compacting the cotton again and it won't be able to wick the juice. So gently into place. Gently into place again. Okay, this is a part that I'm a little bit pedantic over, that's not necessarily needed, but my OCD freaks out if I don't do this. So you'll see the cotton isn't as puffy over there as it is on this side. So then you just go into the middle, lift the cotton up, push it to the side of the well, on this side as well, nice and in, make sure all the different areas are where they should be into the well, be able to wick, but not blocking off the airflow, as the airflow on the Phobia is seated on the sides of the coils. Okay, so now that you're all nice and whipped up, you grab your favorite bottle of juice, and now you just have to paint the coils. So what I mean by that is onto the coils itself and onto the wick, you just drop little bits of juice and just make sure that it seeps into the cotton and the coils. So mainly focus on the area of the coils, not necessarily the sides just yet. As you see, it's catching on the coils, whatever, you can slowly pulse it a little bit until you see the juice is sucked in. Don't pulse for too long, as then you will dry fire the dry cotton. It'll give you a horrible taste and not a nice vaping experience. After the cotton that's inside the coils are nice and soaked, then you can paint the sides as well. Don't overfill on this point. It does happen at first when you do this for the first couple of times. It's fine, just grab a piece of tissue, toilet paper, whatever you wish, and just dry it up, as you don't want your mods being juice soaked. Just nice and quick, like I just did over there. And then you grab the pieces of cotton that you discarded earlier and just wipe the excess juice away. Just double check that you covered all the dry areas of the cotton. Just give it a quick fire. It's still on 60 watts, so it's not going to perform too great, but it's firing nicely. Now next, if you have your variable wattage coils, or if you want to vape your normal make coils on your variable wattage device, that's fine. Just take the wattage up to where the sweet spot of the coil is and leave it there. For these specific coils, we will be going over to the mech. So let me take it off of the variable wattage device or the ohm reader, whichever you use. Put it onto your mechanical mod device. For this instance, we will have to loosen the head first. Get the RDA on. Firstly, another key point, especially on mechanical mods, make sure that your contact pin is clean and dry, especially on hybrid connections. So as that's clean and dry, don't have to worry, just screw it in. insert your battery. That is over here, sorry. Slide it in, over, and as with anything in vaping, just finger tight. Fire away.